Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. So in today's video, I am going to be breaking down the differences between an account manager and a project manager. Let's get started. Okay, so what is an account manager? The main responsibilities of an account manager is to build and maintain the relationship with the client. So every organization has a client in order to drive their revenue. You're meeting the needs of the client. So whatever work you are producing, it's for a client. So the client is paying the organization. So the key contact usually would be part of the account management team. You can have a junior account manager, a senior account manager, and an account lead or a account director. And then you've got the client services director and so forth. So these are the types of roles within an organization that are within the account management department. I'm going to talk a bit about the responsibilities of an account manager, and then I'm going to own in on the key differences, okay? So the account manager is responsible for handling the day-to-day communication with that client. So whereas some roles, you'll get the project manager that's handling the day-to-day comms with the client. In other roles, you would have the account manager who is specifically assigned to manage that day-to-day communication with the client. So if there's a new project, so if the client wants to share a new brief, it will come directly to the account manager from the client. Any major news will come directly from the account manager who is obviously liaising with the client. So the account manager sole responsibility is to maintain those relationships, okay? It's to really drive revenue. It's to upsell to the client. They are gaining an understanding of the account performance, the key KPIs. They're addressing any client concerns promptly, quickly. They're going back to the client, making sure that the work that is done is satisfactory or above the standards. So account management is really a role where you are owning in on those people skills and those communication skills. You are still having to be organized, but a lot of the organizing and the day-to-day managing of the project is down to the project manager. Now, this is also similar to the project manager. The key client concerns that are on the brief have been met. So the project manager is making sure that the project is on scope. You're documenting the scope, you're writing up the scope, okay? You're putting together the timeline for that project. You're making sure that each deadline is being met. So you're utilizing your skill sets, your organizational skill sets to organize the project, to make sure that the project plan is being adhered to, okay? These are the key features of a project manager. The account manager on the other side is responsible for retaining that client, and in their best interest that the project manager is meeting the deadlines. So whilst the project manager is communicating with the teams, whoever you're working with, it could be a designer, it could be a website builder, it could be a developer, anybody, whoever is part of that project team, the project manager is responsible for the communication with the team, okay? But yet the project manager is also very much accountable to the account manager in some aspects, because the account manager is the one that has to go back to the client and communicate directly with the client, because their goal is to retain that client, drive revenue and growth, so to get even more business from that client and to make sure the work is satisfactory for the client. So the account manager, their focus, yes, is on the client, and the client is external. They're the ones that are paying for the project, and it's the project manager that is responsible for the internal stakeholder and making sure that the communication with the internal teams is on point, because you're needing to be meeting those deadlines. You're needing to be hitting all of the internal milestones to meet the overall deadline that usually is attached to a live date for a piece of, marketing material to go live. And where I come from, that would be a social media post, that's part of a larger campaign, for example. So a lot of the time you would find that the account manager is the one that is always sticking up for the client, okay? The project manager might have more of the frustration because, the client has feedback on a piece of work. It's the project manager that would be dealing with that feedback. When I say dealing with, it could be going and having a meeting with the internal team and running through the feedback. So it's briefing the internal teams with the information that has been sent directly from the client. So while the project manager is doing that, project manager may be feeling frustration, annoyance, because there's feedback consistently coming back from the client, which is, making hitting the deadline much more challenging. Okay. So the account manager has to be the one that pushes back to some degree on the client if we're going to hit the deadline. So it's the project manager's responsibility, right, to go to the account manager and say, look, the client has fed back multiple times, and I'm concerned that we may not be able to hit the overall deadline and their live date, if they continue to feed back so much. So then it's down to the account manager to kind of, go back to the client, or more so advocate for the client. So sometimes the account manager can be in quite a tricky position because they're having to deal with the project manager who's sharing concerns about the timeline, hitting the deadline, and they're also having to have the strong communication skills and the relationship building skills with the client themselves. So you have to really be very tactful in how you communicate. Now, I always found that quite difficult because I can sometimes be quite straight talking. I left a lot of the difficult conversations to my senior account director, who I reported directly to, because it was very difficult for me as a newbie to have those kind of conversations with the client. If you're quite shy, you're quite reserved, for example. So I found that a bit difficult. Like, you've got to be able to challenge the client, but very tactfully and tastefully. There's a very thin line, because they're the client's money that's paying for everyone's salary, essentially, right? When you put it in that terms. So you have to be very tactful. Now, I always found that quite challenging. Okay. Just because I can be quite straight talking at times. Or you just got to have a skill. It's an art and it's a skill, and it's a lot of it is based on your personality as well. If you've got that personality, then naturally you'll be perfect at account management. That kind of personality where you're chatty, you love people, and yet you've got the art of communicating with people to make them feel, like they're being heard. If the client is a bit more on the pushy scale or a bit more needy, you got to have that real art to be able to hold their hand while still maintaining that firmness at the same time, and just retaining that relationship. And I always found that quite difficult personally. So hold tight if you have those real people skills for that account management side. I just love the organizing. I love the tick in the boxes. I love that kind of striking through timelines and my task list and really managing those projects. So you've got to have that real people skill, and sometimes it can be very natural. 100%. It's the art of how you deal with clients' specific needs and requirements. So the project manager, you're planning, you're executing, you're delivering, you're leading these meetings to make sure that the project is getting done, everything is getting done on time. You're leading the daily stand-up meetings. If you're having daily stand-up meetings, could be weekly, could be bi-weekly, whatever it is, you're the one that is leading that aspect of the project to make sure the project is going to get delivered on time. So you're dealing with the internal teams, as I mentioned before. So sometimes the account manager is involved in that aspect of things, and some account managers may want to be more involved than others. But essentially, you are, as a project manager, responsible for that side of things, and the account manager responsible for the client relation. Hey there, sorry to interrupt the video, but I've got something really exciting to share with you guys. I am officially opening up my mentorship program. It is time. I now have the capacity, so you guys need to use me while you've got me, okay? So I am opening my mentorship. This is for those of you that really want that hand holding. You want a bit more one-on-one mentoring through your, while you navigate your way through project management. If you're someone who is keen to get into project management and you are changing industries, or you're completely a newbie and you just want a bit more of that hand holding, you want some support with your CV, that kind of workshop, that intimacy, then I am here to help you. Utilize me, use me. I have capacity. Okay. So if you want to check out the link in the description, it's my Calendly link where you can book some time with me. Do that, and I am very excited to get stuck in and to help you guys get your first project management role. So get booking. All right, so let's get back to the video. Both the account manager and the project manager have to have that kind of excellence in their communication skills, right? The only key difference is that the communication skills for the account manager is external and it's based towards the client and retaining the client that is paying, the company. And then you've got the project manager who's, the communication skills are directed to the internal teams. So both are essentially involved in the, coordinating the teams. A bit more pressure, obviously, on the project manager to coordinate the teams, depending on the person. So depending on the account manager, the account manager would also really have an understanding of the project as well. So not only do you know what's happening with the project as the project manager, but the account manager is keeping an eye on everything. So they come into you for updates. If you are managing a project and you have a Slack channel, for example, then the account manager, who'd obviously be in that Slack channel, is going to be keeping an eye on the Slack channels to make sure that the project is being executed, to make sure the project is working to a standard, is working to the standard of excellence. And both the project manager and the account manager need to solve problems, and they're really working together. They're isolated roles to an extent, but you're working together because you both have the same goal. You both want the project to be delivered. So you're communicating with the account manager on a day-to-day basis. So if there's a problem and the account manager is sharing a concern that the client has, that problem also becomes the project manager's problem, right? Because you're both having that invested interest, depending on what the problem is. If it's a problem because the client has flagged the concern, then it probably has a lot more pressure on the account manager. And to some degree, sometimes the project manager can allow the account manager to get involved much more. So if there's a major concern that the client has, then it's your right as a project manager to say, do you know what, the account manager, I need you to come in and lead this meeting and explain the problem that the client's flagged. You as the project manager hasn't had that direct contact with the client where you know exactly, or maybe you don't understand exactly what the concern is. So you're going to need to draw on the account manager to share those concerns, to share the problem, okay? So the account manager and the project manager are having to work very closely. So in some companies, the two roles are very much overlapping. Like when I was working as an account manager, I was doing the project management. I was the project manager and the account manager, except it was advertised as an account management role. So I was dealing with the clients directly, as what some project managers do, but I was also having to maintain that relationship, build that relationship, take the clients out and things like that, and really wine and dine the client and find out all about them. And a lot of that stuff was down to the senior account teams and, those that are in more senior positions. As they would, have the budget, they would have the credit card, they would be the decision makers in that respect. And I would just kind of like tag along and just build that relationship with clients that are on my level. But it's very much strategic as an account manager. So I remember when I was taking the clients out for dinner one day, and there were the senior clients and the kind of mid-level clients that was on my level. And I was specifically told, you are communicating with these girls and we are communicating with these guys. So it was just like, it's very much strategic. I remember having to write emails in a certain way. Everything had to kind of like be very much perfect. And I don't know, to some degree, if that was just down to my line manager at the time, who was very, wanted things done in a certain way, having that, perfectionism, which isn't great to have that. It's not great to be a perfectionist because a lot of perfectionists like to micromanage. And when I think about it, to some degree, I would think I was micromanaging that position. I don't like being micromanaged, but the funny thing about it is I still learn a lot from being micromanaged. I learned from my line manager who was micromanaging me how to, address emails, because I'm just like, sorry, we can't get this to you on time. It's like, no, we cannot just put it that way. So you're learning a lot from these people. And I do find a lot of people in accounts can be quite micromanaging because they really want to, be perfect for the client, which, each to their own. I get it. Come on, I do get it. But yeah, so some roles, they do overlap those responsibilities, which is good. And it has its downsides too. The good side is that you gather more experience. So I was able to get into project management as a result of that. And my role wasn't just focusing on the client because I gained that project management experience at the same time. I remember when I was working as project manager for a gaming company and they wanted me to be permanent, but part of the permanent role was to build the relationships with the clients. So they expressed that then, they want the project manager role to be kind of hybrid and have the account management aspect too. And I was just like, oh God, I don't want to do that. I don't want this pressure. It's a lot of pressure if you're doing both. So essentially, both roles are critical to the delivery of a project. The project manager's key responsibility is delivering the project, executing the project, managing the day-to-day run-ins of that project, whereas the account manager, whilst they have a invested interest in making sure that the project is delivered on time, their key focus is building that relationship, maintaining the relationship with the external client. So if you're more of a people person and you've got the gift of the gab and you love to wine and dine, and you've got that, you're quite a salesy person as well, you like the sales aspect, then account management will probably be perfect for you. And if you're someone who's a bit more on the organized side, you like to focus and get things done, tick boxes, all that kind of good stuff, you like to make sure that timelines are being hit, you've got that level of excellence in that respect, then project management might be a bit more on the side for you. So either way, both roles are very critical to the successful delivery of a project, and obviously maintaining the relationship with the client in order for the projects to keep coming in, right? We want to see those briefs coming in. It keeps us, the project managers, in a job, and it keeps the company and the agency running, okay? So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop me a comment, like this video, subscribe to my channel for more content on project management. Why not check out this video right here where you can see a bit more of the day-to-day run-ins of a project manager. It's my day in a life, and you get to understand and see firsthand some of the core skills and responsibilities of a project manager. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.